Good morning, friends. It's me, your boy Mog. This is Wake Up Wyoming, reporting live for you here at Wake Up News from Studio 2 in beautiful Moose, Wyoming. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We got a big show. Start off with a short quote from the one and only Ernesto Che Guevara. You may not agree with all his politics, but the guy did know how to run a resistance, that's for sure. Talking about intelligence here today. Know yourself and your adversary, and you will be able to fight 100 battles without a single disaster. This Chinese proverb is as valuable for guerrilla warfare as a biblical psalm. Nothing helps the combatant forces more than correct intelligence. So here at Wake Up Wyoming, we try to cut through the spin of the mainstream media. We try to tell you a little bit of the truth, try to make sense of it all. Let's get right into it. Big show today. No shortage of headlines. Yesterday, I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, but took the day off when it came to doing a show. Now we're back with a vengeance here at Wake Up. What's up, Carrie Mark? Thank you for tuning in. What's up, J. Scott Moore? Good morning to you, too. What's up, Matthew Lee Gammon? Thank you so much. Peter Coop, what's up? Thank you so much for all your support here at Wake Up Wyoming. Top story today. No big surprise. 2017's three monster hurricanes, Harvey, Irma, and Maria, among the five costliest ever. Coming from the liars at USA Today. Of course, they give you a little truth with the propaganda, with the spin. The three big hurricanes in 2017, Harvey, Irma, and Maria, are now officially three of the five costliest hurricanes in U.S. history, NOAA announced this week. The storms brought widespread death and destruction to Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. While 2005's fucked up Hurricane Katrina remains the costliest hurricane on record at a cost of $160 billion, last year's Hurricane Harvey ranks second with damage costs of $125 billion. Hurricane Maria in third at $90 billion, and Irma fifth at $50 billion. So long story short, these hurricanes this year cost well over $200 billion. $200 billion. Now, the question that I like to ask, hold up, hold the phone. Thank you, Peter. Excuse me, Peter Coat. Just so everybody knows, it's not Peter Coot, it's Peter Coat from the Netherlands. All these great comments here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. I'll remember that. But top story today, these hurricanes, three of the costliest five ever. And the question I can't help but ask is, why weren't these hurricanes weakened and steered out to sea using well-known, well-documented, historically developed military industrial technologies? Looking at the history of it, this is funny. We're over there at weathermodificationhistory.com. A website put together by the indomitable Jim Lee out of Sumter, South Carolina, and Dominic Marama, a fellow ski bum, snowboard bum, out of Canada, Alberta, Canada. But look at this. All the way back in 1969, the Salamanca Republican Press was reporting the success in seeding and taming Hurricane Debbie, Puerto Rico of all places. The first massive attempt in history to tame a hurricane has been called a huge success by the project director. Weary but elated from 14 hours of flying through Tropical Storm Debbie, Dr. Cecil R. Gentry touched down late Monday night and pronounced his mission a huge operational success. But scientifically, he cautioned, we might still have to work for months. The article goes on and on. You can find out all sorts of crazy stuff about the history of weather modification from the mainstream media press. Going back over a century over there, weather modification history. Let's check out another headline here. Question brought up to us by the Washington Post all the way back in 1970 by Joshua Lederberg. In deflecting hurricanes, where do we aim them? Right, gives you a nice little history there. This is a question that the mainstream establishment press in the United States was asking 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, 48 friggin' years ago. 48 years ago. Peter Coat asking, HARP does control hurricanes, right? Absolutely. We've got a whole bevy of technologies out there. that can be used to steer storms, to weaken storms, to strengthen storms, to use storms as a weapon, to decrease the destructive power of storms. The list goes on and on. The long story short, Mother Nature has been getting ravaged for a long time. Here we see an ad from Life magazine, 1947, talking about man-made snow, right? I'm going to use that for a later article. 1971, the Gazette in Ottawa was warning us that weather control would be the height of socialism. Well, we kind of live in a socialist world today where, you don't see a headline like this in the mainstream press anymore, but 47 years ago, it was all over the news. Coming out of the Ludington Daily News, serving Mason County and surrounding areas in Ludington, Michigan, 1972, controlling the weather. It may become a vital reality. 1972. And, of course, back in 1972 as well, NATO, Senator Claiborne Pell, a Democrat from Rhode Island, was so concerned about the use of weather as a weapon that he was getting NATO and the UN to ban it, and it was banned back in 1974. Coming out of the Toledo Blade, Toledo, Ohio, 1974, a ban on weather war was approved 44 years ago. Of course, the UN also banned torture very long ago, but that didn't stop the Bush administration from using enhanced interrogation methods against the Iraqis and all sorts of things like that, right? And of course, also, interestingly, if you look at this, the ENMOD Treaty, the Environmental Modification Treaty, which banned space-based weapons, it banned weapons in Antarctica, it banned using the weather as a weapon. It had a few clauses there. You could still fuck around with the weather over your own territory. You could still fuck around with the weather with over international airspace, right? And the beautiful thing about weather weapons, of course, is there's always plausible deniability. They're a lot like nukes in the sense that you can cause unprecedented damage, like we saw with the hurricanes, causing 3 of the 5 most costly hurricanes in the history of the United States happening this year, despite the fact that these technologies have been around for literally 70 years. Of course, FEMA ending food and water aid for Puerto Rico, published by NPR on January 29th. The real question is, why the heck are there still hundreds of thousands of Puerto Rico citizens, American citizens living on Puerto Rico that don't have power, that don't have basic needs met, that can't run an economy because they don't have electricity, their entire island being robbed from them? Again, hurricanes are steerable. Hurricanes have been controlled. The weather has been used as a weapon for a very long time. And the only country that I know of that has been proven to use the weather as a weapon is the United States of America, the same country that is the only country that I know of that has dropped nuclear bombs on other people. So think about it. Think about it. Maximilian Rothschild chiming in. Google Charles Hatfield, the Rainmaker. They have been manipulating the weather far longer than we know. You're absolutely right there, Maximilian. Thank you so much. Again, if you want more info on this, pretty reliable info there. Check out weathermodificationhistory.com. You can read articles about Hatfield there. You can read all these articles about the history of weather war. And here, coming out of The Age, Melbourne, Australia, back in 1972, I said the U.S. has used the weather as a weapon. There it is, reported in mainstream news in Australia in 1972. Cloud seeding over into China. It's meteorological warfare. And look, this was actually published in the New York Times in Washington by Seymour Hersh. The United States has been secretly seeding clouds over North Vietnam, Laos, and South Vietnam to increase and control the rainfall for military purposes. The article goes on and on. Probably worth checking out if you have any doubts about where we're at when it comes to weather modification. Again, why the fuck, pardon my French, but why the fuck do we have 3 of the 5 costliest hurricanes in the history of the United States after a 12-year relative drought of hurricanes making landfall in the United States since 2005 this last year? Makes you wonder. Things that make you say, hmm. Coming out of the Times, another Aussie paper, Wilkie the Whale really wants to say, go to hell, all of you. You don't know who Wiki the Whale is. It's a whale that knows how to talk, kind of. Kind of sounds like he knows how to talk. He mimics people's voices. But the point is, why keep whales in cages? Let them swim free. Moving on. Police state news coming out of the independent.co.uk. In the Netherlands, Dutch police will be undressing youths wearing expensive clothes deemed too expensive for them. Officers targeting young men wearing designer clothes and watches they seemingly cannot afford. Stop and frisk on a whole new level. Also covered by our friends over there at Tech Dirt. What are the implications of this? It's pretty wild. I don't know. Just thought it was fascinating. Speaking of police state, kind of government protection rackets, this is kind of like what the mafia does. For a few $1,000s, Detroit police will give a business higher 911 priority. It's a green light partner monitored at Police HQ. You can spend about $6,000 to have these cameras installed at your store. They'll put a green light above the sign, and then you've got your live feeds from your cameras going directly to the Detroit Police Department. Businesses pay between $4,000 to $6,000 to join Project Greenlight, a program that allows police to monitor businesses' video surveillance feeds in real time. The cost covers installation of high-def cameras and lighting. There's also a monthly fee of up to $150 for cloud-based video storage. In exchange, participating businesses are given priority 1 status on police dispatches, but some business owners who don't participate feel like they're being treated like second-class citizens. It's not fair, said Abdo Nagy, owner of a 76 gas station on Grand River in Detroit's west side that is not part of the program. We should all be equal. I pay high taxes already. Now I have to pay extra to get the police to come. And the Detroit police may soon start making it mandatory for certain kinds of businesses to take part in their green light program. Kevin Brewer with a funny comment there. New Detroit RoboCop soon, right? RoboCop, great movie. Shane Calkins, back to the hurricanes briefly. They were geoengineered from beginning to end, right? It's a strange world we live in. We can't talk about climate change without talking about weather warfare, without talking about geoengineering. And anybody that doesn't touch on these issues is full of shit. Remember that. Moving along. More police news. Mexico police find enough fentanyl to kill millions en route to the U.S. border, from our dear friend Tyler Durden out there at Zero Hedge, published a few days ago. It's actually kind of wild. This is the first time I've ever found a mistake in a Zero Hedge article. They talk about this road between Ensenada and Lázaro Cárdenas. Not true. There's not actually a road between Ensenada and Lázaro Cárdenas, because Lázaro Cárdenas, Ensenada's right here up on the northern coast of Baja California. This is not Lázaro Cárdenas. Sorry, Zero Hedge. I found a typo in your otherwise great coverage. As you can see here on this map, Lázaro Cárdenas is actually way down south in mainland Mexico, while Ensenada is way up here. There's no road between the two. But here you see the routes drugs take. Note all these fentanyl and opioids coming from China into Mexico, finding their way into the United States. Other drugs too. Sad to see. Interestingly, here we see Baja California Sur, the murder rate per 100,000 people is 62, which is quite a bit higher than Venezuela at 57.2, where they've experienced heartbreaking hyperinflation in the last several years. And strangely, Baltimore, Maryland, on par with Venezuela. Our hearts go out to the poor people of Baltimore. But interesting to see the Chinese send in all this fentanyl into the United States, literally enough fentanyl to kill millions of Americans en route to the U.S. border. Of course, don't forget, my friends, the war on drugs is actually a war on competition. The biggest drug dealer in the world is Uncle Sam. The biggest arms dealer in the world is our dear old Uncle Sam. the greatest terrorist organization and the largest polluter on the planet is the United States military. That's right. You heard it here, folks. The biggest polluter and the largest terrorist organization with bases, 800 bases in 180 countries. It's the United States of America. Your taxes at work, my friends. Moving along, speaking of the U.S. military-industrial complex, all over the world, this is funny, Strava, the fitness tracking app where people who have way too much ego will post their results. Like, look at me, I went for a run today, or look at me, I hiked up a mountain, or look at me, I went and swam across this lake. Well, it's kind of funny, the law of unintended consequences. These military cocksmokers who are terrorists all over the world, their fitness tracker data is showcasing where their bases are all over Africa. Coming out of the intercept, this is picked up all over. And long story short, these Fitbit, like here's you can see obviously this is a military base. Well, there's some Westerners who use this Strava act running a whole lot of laps around these streets. And it's strange, showcasing, I guess the fitness of these troops who are illegally occupying African nations as part of the AFRICOM terrorist initiatives of the United States militaries. Moving along here, Paul Craig Roberts, former economic advisor to the Reagan administration. He's gone rogue, like myself. Washington reaches new heights of insanity with the Kremlin report, published on January 30th. I'm going to read this whole one because it's pretty illuminating. Washington reaches new heights of insanity with the Kremlin report by Paul Craig Roberts. In an act of insane escalation of provocations against Russia, Washington has produced a list of 210 top Russian government officials and important business executives who are gangsters, members of Putin's gang, threats, people deserving to be sanctioned, or however the Western prostitutes care to explain the list. The absurd list includes the Prime Minister of Russia, the Foreign Minister, the Defense Minister, the executives of Gazprom, Rosneft, and Bank Russia. In other words, the suggestion is that the entirety of Russian political and business leadership is corrupt. Let's not forget Trump's executive order on the winter solstice, December 21st, where he says we're going to steal assets from people. We're going to seize the assets of people who are deemed as human rights violators or international gangsters. I guess that includes these 210 top Russian government officials. The Russians do not seem to understand the purpose of the list. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the government sees the list as an attempt to interfere in the Russian presidential election. There is no doubt that Washington would like to reduce Putin's public support so that Washington can use the Western-funded NGOs operating in Russia to present American stooges as Russia's two voices. Sounds like the U.S. policy recently in Iran. However, it is unlikely that the Russian people are stupid enough to fall for such a trick. Washington's list has three purposes. One, to undercut Russian diplomacy by presenting the top echelons of Russia as gangsters. Two, to present Russia as a military threat, as per the ridiculous announcement by British Defense Minister Gavin Williamson on January 26th that Russia intends to rip British infrastructure apart, actually cause thousands and thousands and thousands, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths, and create total chaos within the country. And number three, to shift American and European attention away from the coming release of the House Intelligence Committee's report that proves that Russiagate is a conspiracy between the FBI, the Obama DOJ, and the DNC against President, Distractor, Divider, Deceiver-in-Chief Trumpo. Washington's Russian list will give the prostitutes something else to talk about instead of the act of treason committed against Trumpo. Expect to hear nothing from the prostitutes except that the House Intelligence Committee report is only a political effort to shield Trumpo from accountability. There is likely a fourth reason for the list. Israel wants Washington's pressure on Russia because Russia has so far prevented Israel's use of the U.S. military to create the same chaos in Syria and Iran as has been created in Iraq and Libya. Israel wants Syria and Iran destabilized because they support Hezbollah, which prevents Israel from occupying the water resources of southern Lebanon. The Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which requires the list, passed the House and Senate by a vote of 517 to 5, rather unilaterally. Normally, such unanimous foreign policy votes are associated with demands from the Israeli lobby. The Russian government and the Russian people need to understand that Washington considers Russia to be a threat because Russia is not under Washington's thumb. The Zionist neoconservatives control U.S. foreign policy. Their ideology is world hegemony. They do not use diplomacy. They rely on disinformation, threats, and violence. Therefore, there is no American diplomacy with which Putin and Lavrov can engage. Putin, being a responsible political leader of a great power, does not respond to provocation with provocation. He ignores the insults and continues to wait for the West to come to its senses. But what if the West does not come to its senses? For the West to come to its senses requires the complete overthrow of the Zionist neoconservatives and or breakup of NATO. The overthrow of the neocons would require a rival foreign policy voice, and that voice is very weak, as it is shut off from the media, the think tanks, and the universities. The breakup of NATO would require European political figures to give up their Washington subsidies and the career advancement that Washington provides. It goes on and on. The Russian government faces a difficult situation. The foreign policy of the U.S. and thereby of the Western world is controlled by neoconservatives who are determined to present Russia in the most threatening light. Russian diplomacy can do nothing to change this. The non-provocative and responsible Russian response has the effect of encouraging more provocations from Washington. At some point, Russian passivity might convince the neocons that they can successfully attack Russia. Alternately, the continual provocations might convince Russia that the country is targeted for attack, thereby causing a Russian preemptive action. Everyone in the world should realize the threat of nuclear war that is inherent in Washington's policy towards Russia. And everyone in the world should understand that the only threat that Russia poses is to Washington's unilateralism. Let's see. Somebody had a comment here. Dave Wooldridge says, "Are you reading verbatim?" No, you just said deceiver in chief. If that wasn't in the text, then this is an editorial. Transparency not there. You are just as guilty as those you say lie to us. Dave, I'm sorry. I appreciate that comment. Thanks for that. You know, sometimes I like to throw my own little tidbits in there, but because the entire article is up on the screen, you can read along with me. Hopefully you can notice when I throw my own opinions into my commentary here. Thanks for that, Dave. I appreciate the comment there. You know, if you support Trumpo, that's fine. I don't. I think Trumpo is kind of playing ball with the neocons and sort of a false messiah, if you will. But that's just my opinion. Looking at Trumpo here, you know, there he is. Your commander-in-chief, America. You know, if Trumpo was really supporting the de-escalation of the U.S. military-industrial complex, he was really trying to throw crooked Hillary in prison, we would hear about that. There would be people going to jail. There would be wars stopping and on and on. But you know what? He's kind of towing the line there with the neocons, if you ask me. And this North Korean rhetoric during the State of the Union is an ominous carbon copy of Bush's words about Iraq 15 years ago. Great propaganda moment there where they show this North Korean defector who limped out of the country on these homemade crutches. And Trump gave him a lot of love in the State of the Union. Of course, Vice chiming in on it as well. I can't get enough of this picture of Trump there. Just a great, great photo. So if you want to read about Trumpo's State of the Union, I'll paste all that in. But, yeah, you know, I appreciate the comments from everybody and everybody who is, you know, you can call me out on my bullshit. I appreciate that. Speaking of Trumpo, crazy backwards policies that impact all of us, the recent solar tariffs, you know, somehow imposing a 30% tax on importing solar equipment is somehow going to save us from China. I don't think so. It's a handout to the fossil fuel industry because renewables, baby, renewables, you know, they won't let us have Tesla tech yet, but they will let us have solar. Of course, these geoengineering programs that are also causing hurricanes have a nasty tendency to cover up some of the sunlight, decreasing solar's effectiveness. But this is a good read from Henry Hewitt over there at, of all places, oilprice.com, published on January 30th. I'm going to read a couple excerpts from this because it's pretty thought-provoking. There may not be blood, reference to the movie, but there will be plenty of losses for those who still hold hope for an age that is passing away. I'm going to add a little editorial in here, so heads up, the oil age. Soon after the Trump administration announced a tariff would be imposed on imports of Chinese photovoltaic cells and modules, the New York Times ran a headline declaring this was a threat to solar. What struck me was not that President Trump had done so much to harm solar, but that the Times knew so little about why this action will amount to nothing in the grand scheme of things, where the outcome is no longer in doubt that renewables will sweep all contenders, even the mightiest fossil fuels, from the field. While we Americans are whining about unfair trade practices, which has always been code for those guys are better at this than us, and Russians interfering in the decision-making process that millions of people go through before pulling the lever on the voting machines, which are rigged. That's a little more editorial too. Voting machines rigged. Trump would not have won the election if they didn't want him to. The Chinese and their formidable leader Xi Jinping are building the next Silk Road. Okay, Silk Road should not be underestimated. I'm scrolling down, so that's some more editorializing here from me. Propagandist in chief, just a puppet for Ernesto Che Guevara, after all. Just this month, the governor of China's central bank met with the Saudi finance minister to determine when the Chinese would start to pay for oil with yuan, not dollars. More editorializing, of course, the petrodollar system has been in place since the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1971, when President Nixon, who was a crook, took us off the gold standard. In case you were asleep and did not hear it, the bell has tolled. In fact, the recent rise in the price of crude above 70 may have more to do with dollar woes than economic strength, though this is always an arguable matter. Drillers in the Eagle Ford don't care. Here's the greenback. You can see right at the time when President Trump was inaugurated, the dollar has been in a steady decline since then. Forget the noise about Russia and Bitcoin, which more than anything else seems to be a symptom of a world that is rapidly losing faith in paper money and the people and institutions responsible for creating and managing it. Bitcoin is not a currency, nor a store of value, nor a unit of exchange. And until China embraces it, which may never happen, it will mostly be a fascinating conversation piece and trading mechanism for many who have more dollars than cents. The best thing about financial manias is that they drastically reduce the amount of actual currency before coming to an exhausted rest. You should seriously consider trading in your bitcoins for a piece of grease while you can. Of course, that's a bit of editorializing from Henry Hewitt. George Washington was right. In his farewell address, edited by the great Alexander Hamilton, architect of American financial might, he said that an enlightened public was the key to the success and endurance of the American Republic. That's why I tell you about geoengineering, editorializing. By enlightening, he meant educated, not Buddhist meditation. Considering that the New York Times itself doesn't yet seem to understand the lay of the land, one suspects the ghost of our great father is rattled. Rest, perturbed spirit. The energy wars will be won by the good guys. Here we see a graph, global renewable energy employment. Solar voltaic globally employing 3.1 million people. Okay, 9.8 million jobs globally in global renewable energy employment. Kudos. Go solar, young man. If you want jobs, look no further. As for the currency, Mr. Hamilton, the news is not so good. But for solar specifically and those who work in the business, the wind still sits fair. And it's getting stronger, political theater notwithstanding, as this impressive chart indicates. There's no reason to think this historic trend can or will be stopped. Angie Eagle chiming in there with a good comment on cryptocurrency. In my opinion, cryptocurrency is just like fiat currency. Neither has anything backing it, right? There's actually a really good edition of the Corbett Report by James Corbett that came out yesterday called The Bitcoin PSYOP. It's kind of a misleading title. Let's go to hit that. Uh-oh, we're losing our cam. Okay, we're back. Let's move on, though. Speaking of currencies, speaking of fiat currencies, things backed by nothing, Janet Yellen passing the torch to Jerome Powell, okay? Federal Reserve Chairwoman, oh no, they cut me out here. Bummer. Sorry, I'm losing my cam there. If this cuts out, I'll try to go live again. There we go. the magic of the thumb on the camera. Gosh, why the heck? I don't want to buy a membership. I had this loaded up. Anyway, the funny thing here in this article, Daryl Earth's looking for some tinfoil. I don't have any tinfoil, Dale. They actually don't make tinfoil anymore. Now they make aluminum foil. It's very different. But in the third paragraph of this, there's mention of how inflation has been running at a tepid 2%. Okay, the Wall Street Journal. I promise you, if you find this article, if you can somehow get through their paywall, you will see that in the third or fourth paragraph, they talk about inflation running at 2%. Well, inflation's not really running at 2%. In fact, if we look at this graph here, we can see it's running at 2.65% officially in 2017, 2.38% officially in 2018, and 2.64% officially in 2019 over at Statista.com. But coming from our friends at mybudget360.com, important to note, you have been lied to about inflation, and here is the proof. Take a look at where we have gone since 2000 to today. A very simple analysis of inflation from 2000 to today shows the following as measured by the core price index of the BLS. According to this chart, the overall CPI is up 43% since 2000. That seems modest over nearly 20 years, right? But you have to break down the components deeper to understand inflation is actually much higher. Take a look at the various segments broken out. Again, you know, the dollar losing 43% of its purchasing power over the last 18 years is a pretty big deal, even on the face of it, especially when you consider wages have not really gone up diddly squat for the average working American. But if we look at this CPI, look at college tuition. Since this is from 2000 until now, college tuition up 155%. Medical care up 88%. Goods and services up 65%. Housing up 55%. Food and beverages up 50%. And if you look at that, look at what the average American actually spends their money on. It's medical care, housing, food, and goods and services. So all these things are running between 88% and 55%. Then we look at other things. Transportation costs up 38%. The list goes on, but the point here I'm trying to make is inflation is actually much higher. The above chart shows the following. Housing is up over 60% from 2000. Medical care is up over 80%. And college tuition is up over 160%. Or let us take a look at the housing by the Case-Shiller Index, which actually looks at home sale prices versus rental information, as the CPI deceptively puts it out there. Home prices are up 95% since 2000. That is much higher than 43% or the 60+% reported in the CPI housing index. So again, inflation is underreported, and you can find this in many areas. The above merely points out some major areas where funds are being drained. So there we go. Sorry, the camera's totally on the fritz here today. It's funny, by taking my thumb and pushing right on the camera, it starts working again. I don't know why. This one we're just going to skip. Billionaire's budget. On to cryptocurrency news. This is big news. January 30th out of Recode. It's all over the web. Facebook is banning all ads promoting cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin and blockchain ICOs. It's an intentionally broad policy aimed at stopping scammers, but it's also kind of suppressing cryptocurrency information from getting out there, right? Peter Coat chiming in. 40 years ago, my pack of rolling tobacco was $2.65 guilders. Now it's 27. Calculated. Yes, I should quit smoking. Laugh out loud. Peter, you should try the Nicorette gum. Great way to quit smoking. I know from personal experience. But yeah, so cryptocurrency ads banned from Facebook. Very big news there. Very big news. It's funny how they can do that. But of course, there are some scams out there in the crypto space. Coming from Motherboard over their advice, an Ethereum startup vanishes after seemingly making $11 leaves the message penis on the screen. You know, you can't trust every ICO. Here's a prime example. Protium.io was an Ethereum startup, disappeared from the web after raising a grand total of $11 from investors. So just funny news there. But again, you got to be careful if you're going to play the crypto games. Watch out for scams. And again, if you want some great info on the crypto, the difference between blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, all the terminology, and how some of these folks, notably XRP, Ripple, are not actually providing us with a decentralized ledger system on a legitimate blockchain. It's more, you know, they're trying to market this new emerging decentralized ledger technology, which could replace the banking cartels. It could replace governments, really and truly could. It could replace all these corrupt institutions over time. But it's important to note that some of the biggest scammers in the crypto space are actually large banking conglomerates, and you know, folks like the folks behind Ripple, aka XRP, who are just basically replacing a database, an existing database, with a new database, throwing the word blockchain into the name and making billions. Cryptocurrency hack in Japan won't be the last, Wall Street analyst says. 500 million in cryptocurrency stolen by hackers from CoinCheck last week. But looks like CoinCheck's going to be giving back a lot of the money that was stolen. So good work, CoinCheck. Way to be responsible in the crypto space. If you haven't heard of the Robinhood app, if you're a trader, Robinhood offers free trades. It's funny, a friend mentioned Robinhood to me just the other day, and it offers free trades. Now they're getting into the crypto the crypto space. It's only going to be available initially in just 5 states, but more than 1 million Americans have already signed up for it. So if you got one of these tracking device smartphone things, get yourself the Robinhood app if you want to trade. I don't support, I don't know. I don't like speculation in general, but crypto, could be something good to invest in. Another bit of news from Motherboard over at Vice. We're covering the 5G thing. It's interesting. There's so much coverage, literally so much coverage in the mainstream press. Vice is mainstream about 5G, and it's all promoting it like it's going to be this great thing. I personally am concerned about the human and environmental health impacts of 5G, millimeter wavelength, directed beam energy blasting through everything all the time, and having these transmitters every couple hundred yards coast to coast in the United States. Interestingly here, Tracy Lindemann, I don't know how she became an expert on this topic exactly, but what she's saying is you need something better than 5G in order to have self-driving cars. I don't really understand why that's true when the cars are covered with sensors of all sorts to make sure they don't run into each other and make sure they stay on the road. But apparently in this whole Internet of Things, IoT future that's planned for us, they want these cars to be 5G enabled and hooked into the network all the time. Guess what? If you live in a world where there's a government infrastructure 5G network, the Trump administration calling it a national security priority, then backpedaling, saying the federal government's going to build this network and rent it out to the cell phone companies, all of your movements are tracked if your vehicle and your phone are both linked up to a GPS and 5G network. Kind of limits personal freedom, don't you think? But, no mention here of the potential health dangers of 5G over there at Motherboard Vice. Again, another article from Motherboard Vice by Kaylee Rogers. No mention of the potential health or environmental impacts of the 5G network, but it's very real. I promise you, it's very real. If you don't believe me, go get yourself a copy of The Body Electric by Robert O. Becker, MD, written in 1985 by one of the pioneering researchers in the bioelectric nature of human life, right? You stick your finger in a light socket, we know what happens. You get struck by lightning, we know what happens. You live downwind of a radium deposit that's blowing a radioactive ionizing dust into your lungs, we know what happens. And we also know what happens if you're continually bombarded with signals from 3G, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, smart meters, radio stations, military installations, and all sorts of other toxic electromagnetic pollution. Kevin Brewer chiming in, 5G bad. Okay, I think so. I think so. And there's actually a great local organization here based out of Teton Village, Wyoming, called the Environmental Health Trust that shares my perspective. And they come off even less crazy than me. Check out this. Letters from scientists on the health risk of 5G. If you want to do something to help get the word out, follow that link. There it is up on the screen. But ton of information here. Scientific fact sheets on 5G. Letters from scientists. Declaration of European Commission of 180 scientists calling for a moratorium on 5G cell antennas. September 13th, 2017. All these letters from various doctors, scientists, organizations that are justifiably concerned about this whole situation. So do check this out if you want more information. The Environmental Health Trust, founded by Dr. Deborah Davis, that's her right there, intrepid environmental activist, human health activist, based in Teton Village, Wyoming. God bless you, Deborah. Thank you for your work. And do check out ehtrust.org for more information on the 5G thing. I think it's probably the most important issue, right up there with the geoengineering issue. Of course, this video, rather creepy title, but this is a June 20th, 2016 FCC press conference on 5G in Washington, D.C., where homeboy here is really laying it on thick there. Tom Wheeler, the FCC chair and former senior lobbyist for CTIA. You know, of course, with the revolving door, you get these guys who've got long-term connections with the telecom industry. The next thing you know, he's the chair of the FCC. But listening to his comments here, I'll paste it into the links if you are into the comments here. Do check that out if you want to kind of scare the crap out of yourself. But the point is, 5G's here. It's not a good thing, and I think we need more people ringing the alarm on that one. The Body Electric by Robert DeBecker, MD, especially Chapter 13, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, bang bang. Great place to start. In other tech news, this could be potentially cool, actually. Tree planting drones can plant 100,000 trees in a single day. Pretty cool. You know, they look at drop a little tree bomb. Wouldn't it be great if the military-industrial complex was revamped? So instead of dropping bombs on people, all those drones and helicopters and machine guns were just shooting seeds out there to help green up the earth. Kind of funny too. You know what trees do? They capture CO2. There's all this talk about carbon capture technology, building these huge like fan arrays up on windy ridges so we can suck CO2 out of the air. Why don't we just plant a bunch of trees? And while we're at it, why don't we plant a bunch of apple trees, pear trees, orange trees, fruit trees of all sorts, you know, avocado trees, lemon trees. Oh, heck, we could plant some cashew trees. We could plant some walnut trees. We could plant all sorts of trees instead of blowing things up, and it would have the added bonus of feeding a lot of people. So cool to see. You know, for every bad thing going on in the world, there's a good thing, of course. What's this going to do to jobs? Or more importantly, who really wants a job planting trees by hand? Anyway, more science news. Nicotine in e-cigs might cause cancer. Mouse study suggests. No big surprise there. Believe it or not, we live in the midst of a global depopulation agenda, and it turns out that in addition to giving you, Jerry Wallace chiming in, peach trees. Yes, please, peach trees, peach trees, peach trees. You know, the military-industrial complex, the corrupt, globalist, neoconservative bastards are trying to kill us all off. I know it's hard to. David Cook with another great one there. Sugar maples. There's so many great trees we could be planting with these drones or by hand. You know, let's turn the military over to a tree planting organization and have them water things while they're at it. Think of how many trees you could build, how much irrigation infrastructure you could build, how much water you could desalinate by diverting the funds used to fund the world's largest polluter, the world's largest terrorist organization, the United States military, to doing something worth a damn instead. But it seems like we're on this backwards ass trajectory where, they say, oh, vaping is healthier for you than cigarettes. But is it really? I don't know. I don't think so. And this study kind of confirms it. The nicotine in e-cig seems to damage DNA in ways that may increase cancer risk. A new study in mice suggests. I'm not going to read that whole thing to you here, but important thing, don't think that vaping is better for you than cigs. Look up popcorn lung. Moving along, we're at jhavalanche.org looking at the Teton avalanche forecasts. We got 5 inches, baby. Colorado getting skunked still in the area of geoengineering. Of course, way too warm all over the West. Our weather has been manipulated. Our snowpacks are really not what they should be. And luckily here in the Tetons, we've got some snow. Pretty windy lately. Average wind speed 17, gusting to 41 out of the west up at the 10,400-foot summit of Rendezvous Mountain. In the next day, we're looking at westerly winds 15 to 25. Another 1 to 4 inches of snow expected. And, baby, it's winter in Jackson Hole. It's winter in Jackson Hole. Moving along here. You want to support my work, check me out over there on patreon.com. It looks like, refreshing the browser here today, I have lost 2 patrons for a grand total of $20 a month. So I hate to see you go, guys. If I can do better work, you let me know what you want me to do. But I'm doing this as a job, I'm trying to make a living at it. It's not really going too well. I'm running out of money. If you want to show me some support, please do. Because, I can't live off $366 a month in modern Idaho. Well, I guess I could if I lived off oatmeal, but that's not really very much fun. I prefer to enjoy my life and have a little fun with it. So if you want to support my work, check me out over there at patreon.com. Pony up if you feel so inclined, or if you don't, that's cool. But, every little bit helps. $1 here, $1 there, all goes a long way. We're going to go over to JacquelineBegar.com for the scopes. Hopefully she's not having an off day. I know I had an off day yesterday. I got this whole show ready to go, and then I kind of just fizzled out. I don't know why. Greg Cheney chiming in -2 and sunny here in Minnesota. David Cocarica says his went through. Clayton Best chiming in. Max Mogren, Patreon.com. I learned so much from you that is not in the corporate media news. Please, all you fans of his work, if we can all make a small pledge of a few dollars, we can keep this real news going. From Max and Wegum News. Clayton, I love you, brother. I love you, brother. Clayton Best always has good ideas here. Jerry Wallace chiming in. Okay, folks, let's help him out. We got 81 viewers. If I get $1 a month out of each of you, well, that's going to keep me rolling along. And Peter, Coach, Peter, I'm getting better at your name. Thank you for tuning in from the Netherlands. Looking for cancer here of the good kind. 4-star day for you, Peter. You might want to have a discussion about your choices after you balance your checkbook. Until you do that, you will not have a valid concept of what is possible. Do not negate a possibility until you have given it adequate consideration. Tonight, Peter, hang with friends. Jerry Wallace looking for Scorpio. What's up, Jerry? Thanks for tuning in. Salt Lake City zone. The man behind the Peachtree phenomenon sweeping the nation. Scorpio coming at you, Jerry. Thank you so much. 4-star day. Zero in on a high priority in the afternoon. You seem to be able to elicit others' feedback more easily at that point. Deal with an older person you have been meaning to respond to. Get to the bottom of a problem through an intense conversation. And tonight, Jerry, where the action is. Let's see. We got a big quote from Carrie Mack about San Francisco retroactively applying California's new marijuana legalization laws to prior convictions, expunging or reducing misdemeanors and felonies dating to 1975. District Attorney's Office announced Wednesday. That's huge. Congratulations there. Annie Pechnio saying snow in Colorado. Annie, I sure hope you're getting some snow down there, because it's been a rough sitch lately. Frankie Lynn coming out of the UK. What's up, Frankie? Good chatting with you lately. Capricorn coming at you, miss. 4-star day for you, Frankie. Reach out to someone at a distance whom you care a lot about. The unexpected occurs when dealing with a group of acquaintances. Take an overview, if possible. An interaction could be more significant than you realize, Frankie. Tonight, break past the feeling of boredom and or loneliness. Thank you for tuning in, Frankie. Ava Child's asking, are you on any other platforms? Not really. I should probably go over to, for payment, I'm on PayPal, paypal.me/Max Mogren. And then Patreon, Jill Day out of Montana, the Mountain Mama from Montana, my big supporter there on PayPal. So, but I also repost these on YouTube sometimes. I should probably get into Steam it more. I haven't posted there, but I haven't bought any of the Steam currency yet. And I think that I need to do that in order to get them to start promoting my work. David Light Thobosi watching from Botswana. David, thank you so much for tuning in from Botswana. Sorry about all the military U.S. kooks over there screwing up things in Africa. I don't know if they're doing anything in Botswana, but if they are, you can track them on their Fitbits. I already read Cancer, but I'm going to read it again for you, David, because you're all the way in Botswana tuning in. 4-star day. You might want to have a discussion about your choices after you balance your checkbook. Until you do that, you will not have a valid concept of what is possible. Do not negate a possibility until you have given it adequate consideration. Tonight, David, hang with friends. David Cocorico Sedano, I'm going to read Leo. I know you want it. And he's got another great tree idea there. Coconut trees. Love coconuts. Coconut oil, one of the best oils in the world. Fascinating. If you want to know some history, read about how the soybean lobby intentionally demonized coconut oil, making it out like it's bad for you when actually coconut oil is so good for you. Fat actually is your friend. Even bacon fat, in my opinion. David, I'm reading Leo, even though you haven't asked for it, because I know you like Leo for your lady. 3-star day. Use the morning for any matter that appears to be critical. You could be distracted in the afternoon and will want to handle other issues. You might want to approach a financial matter differently from how a loved one does. Tonight, head down the path that seems best for you. And Julie Howlett, my fellow Taurus. Oh, hold on. Leslie Kendrick chiming in. You're feeling like that due to the eclipse. You know what, Leslie? I think you might be right. That eclipse was intense. And also the real serious full moon the last couple nights. I know I haven't been sleeping too well. And I already read Leo for David. So I beat you to it. Didn't even see that comment, David. You and I just got that mind meld going, brother. Let's get into Taurus for us bulls in the China shop. I'm a Taurus too. Here you go, Julie. 4-star day for you and I. If you need some time off to recharge your batteries, try to make it happen. Your anger doesn't usually come to the surface. However, given the present circumstances, you might be concerned about saying something you won't be able to take back. Take that to heart. And tonight, lead the way. Moving on, Carrie, Mark, Carrie, thank you so much for chiming in. Good to see you here today. Beautiful. Gemini, coming at you, 3-star day. Hang in there. You would prefer to avoid a difficult situation. Know that if you bypass the issue, you will just be prolonging the inevitable. You might be best off clearing the air as quickly as possible. You then can focus your energy on completing a key project. And tonight, Carrie Mark, catch up on others' news. So there you go. Ozzy Mollahan, sunny in San Diego. Good to hear, Ozzy. Hopefully that flu epidemic isn't too bad down there. And you guys aren't getting sprayed too heavy duty with the chems. I know I was living in California when I woke up to the disturbing reality of aerial spray programs, and the rest is history. Leslie Kendrick, Sagittarius, coming at you, 3-star day. Accepting additional responsibilities that are dropped on you from out of the blue might be difficult. You come from a place where you need to recharge your energy while still having to push to meet certain demands. Tonight, your instincts will lead you down the right path. There you go, Leslie. Thanks for that insight about the eclipse and that super blue blood eclipse, magic moon. It was trippy, to say the least. There's Cancer. I already read that one. Ozzy, there it is up on the screen again. Bessie Davis. What's up, Bessie? Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. Appreciate your support over there on the Patreon as well. Virgo, coming at you, 4-star day. Your energy level rises in the afternoon as you wonder what you need to do in order to maintain the pace that you desire. You are likely to be surprised by how much spontaneity invigorates you. Others notice your dynamic liveliness. Prioritize. Tonight, all smiles. I love that smile ears on the screen there, Bessie. Thank you so much. Greg L. Cheney looking for Sagittarius. I just read that one for Leslie, so there it is on screen again. Lloyd Bukowski, thanks for that thing about mines there. I'll check out that one out. Joel Purtle looking for Aries. What's up, Joel? Hope you're doing well. Keep in touch if you want to about working together stuff. I really appreciate that article from Houston that you sent me not too long ago. Should have put it up on the Wake Up News website, but just one more thing to contend with. 4-star day for you, Joel. You might be just landing from yesterday's full moon eclipse. Give yourself some time before making any decisions about recent events. You will want to squash a display of arrogance. Let it go, and you'll be much happier as a result. Tonight, get organized. So there you go. Peter Colt chiming in. Super Bowl thoughts. I don't know. I thought the Super Bowl was last Sunday, but I was wrong. I was wrong. So I don't know anything about the Super Bowl. Who's in it? The Patriots and the Eagles. It's in Minnesota. I think that Tom Brady's probably going to cheat and win again. Julie Howlett, thank you so much. On the night shift in Warwick, UK tonight, so we'll lead the way. Do that. Michael Miller saying, dude at the hotel next to me just left, door open to nice car and left. We're in downtown Baton Rouge. Won't be long. Laugh out loud. Dwayne, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked the show. Patrick Anderson, namaste to you too. Carrie Mark, I'm glad we got you laughing out loud a little bit today. And on that note, I think I'm through the comments. If anybody's got a comment for me, lay it on me. Otherwise, I'm signing off. I think I'm going to go live once again with a quick little show. Again, if you want to support my work, you can head on over there to patreon.com. They take about 10%, but, you know, they provide a service. Or you can hit me up. You can mail me stuff. If you want to get in touch with me, you got some scoops for me. And I try to read or watch everything people send me. But if it's about QAnon, or if it's about, I don't know, if it's like a 2-hour YouTube documentary, send me. Odds are I'm not going to watch it. But you got some breaking news story, by all means, send it my way. Or some insightful article, send it my way. But if you want to get in touch with me, the point I'm trying to make is add me as a friend on Facebook. Don't just paste it into the Wake Up News comments, because we have a dozen admins there, and I don't get to see everything there. Let's see. Greg Alchaney says, show from the top of the mountain again. I'd watch that. I'll try to do one from the mountaintop. I'm going to do one about the snowpack in Colorado, because these so-called sustainability experts, it's funny, there are people whose job it is, like at Aspen Ski Resort, there's a guy named Auden Schendler, who have gotten into it in the past a little, who just is a propagandist for the CO2-driven climate change agenda, never addressing geoengineering, never addressing weather modification, never addressing solar flares or weather warfare or any of these other factors contributing to our wacky weather. So I'm going to get into it with Colorado a little bit today and let them know. But thank you so much for this. Peter Code asking skiing today. Yeah, I think I'm going to go up and ski a mountain called the Pyramid. See if I can bring that up. This is kind of fun. The Pyramid. Jackson Hole, skiing the backcountry. See if this page even exists. No, it's gone. So that's a bummer. But yeah, going to go ski the Pyramid. It's a kick-ass mountain. One of my faves. Going to take the white dog. The maestro up there. Come here, bitch. There she is. The one and only. Now, on that note, we're signing off. Remember, if you don't support my work, I'm going to feed this cute little dog. No, I'm kidding. We're going to be fine. But the maestro doing well. She loves skiing. She had some eggs for breakfast today. A little leftover salmon skin for dinner last night. And on that note, I'm signing off, but I'll probably go live again in just a few minutes with a quick little update on the snow in Colorado. You all take care. One love.